Thank you for coming to the session. Like I said, I'm Smita and I have with me a very interesting panel, very interesting lineup of panelists and speakers. So I'll start straight with the panelists. We have very little time, but just a quick information on what is this panel about. This is the panel on social enterprises, which actually does not do business as usual. So that's my favorite take on social enterprises, that they do business unusual and have a transformational, almost transformational look at every problem. So today we are going to understand from this panel not just the work that they do, not just the kind of transformation and change and the disruptive solutions they've brought to the community that they're working for, but also the challenges that they faced and what is it that they see as shaping up the sector going forward. So I think I'll start with you, Vikas. He's just won an award, so we're definitely excited to hear about the work. Vikas Shah is the Chief Operating Officer of WaterHealth International. He's also been in the past President of the Access Business Unit of Tata Teleservices, where he was involved with rural point of sales, calling card businesses, and paid telephony. Vikas has also worked with US-based consulting and investment banking firm and has worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. So we are really excited about hearing about your work on affordable drinking water solutions that you are
So I have a quick 4-5 presentation because I thought this will.
So the way we'll structure it is, each panelist will make an under 5-minute presentation about their work and acquaint you with where are they coming from, what is it that they're working on, and then we'll take up a few questions internally within the panel and then open it to all of you. So, okay. Yeah.
So I'll start with indicating what are there are 3 worlds that we live in. There's a commercial world, then there's a not-for-profit world, and then there's a social enterprise. So social enterprise is generally in the no man's land in the middle. We have NGO on one side and commercial enterprise on the other side. So I've tried to look at all the 3 worlds, look at the correct fix of all the 3 worlds, see how they're different quickly, and then figure out what is the sweet spot in which a social enterprise should exist, what are the impediments and the solutions that we typically look at. So if you look at the 3 worlds, and these are typically 5 or 6 parameters that most enterprises at any point of time evaluate or gauge for their success or failure, as the case may be. So as far as the business model is concerned, most of it is fairly generic. You would know that anyways the business model is growth and market capitalization driven for a commercial enterprise. For social enterprise, it is profitability with social impact, and of course for not-for-profit, profitability is excluded. Fundraising mostly to profits for commercial enterprise. For a social enterprise, it's a combination of soft loans, revolving loan, no grant, because it is for profit, and of course equity and debt. Non-government agencies have grants and all the other stuff. So the rest of the parameters are fairly clear. Profitability motive high, one existing NGO, social impact, not there really. If you force it down their throat through the new company law, that's a different issue, but on their own, there's a little likelihood that a commercial enterprise would look at social impact in a very major fashion. Wealth creation is the stepping stone as far as the commercial enterprise is concerned, not necessarily for the rest of the categories. And innovation, I've given a green to social enterprise because it kind of gets squeezed between serving the bottom of the pyramid and still making money. So I would say, as far as innovation is concerned, they probably have to play out of their skin to survive in the environment that they do. These are 2 examples. So I think what separates the social with the commercial enterprise is basically, of course, the purpose and what they intend to do. So I think the classic example is Grameen, which is a social enterprise for profit. Of course, now it's become more commercial than what it used to be compared to an HDFC, which is a commercial enterprise. So again, it's the intent other than profitability which separates a social versus a commercial enterprise. And come to an NGO, it's again the same, the intent of purpose. Making money is secondary to a social enterprise other than the social impact. So that comes third in the pecking order. Environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and then the financial sustainability. For NGO, of course, it doesn't matter. But what's the takeout of all of this? I took you through 5, 6 slides quickly, but what's the takeout? I call it the pendulum. So for me, these 3 worlds exist on different ends of the pendulum. Right? If you go on the left extreme side, that's a commercial enterprise completely driven by profitability objective. You go to right extreme side, you have the NGO. And somewhere in the middle is social enterprise, like I said earlier. They need to dwell or ride both the boats and try to evolve or imbibe the best practices from both the worlds. I come from a commercial enterprise, as I just indicated some time back. So when I joined a social enterprise, it was a cultural shock for me because the organization that I took over was actually on the right extreme end. And I should tell you this, the journey from right to the middle is much more difficult than the journey from left to the middle. Because what you do is the DNA has to change completely for how do you ensure that each activity of yours is not funded through any unknown grant or somebody signing a check for each and everything that we do. So I think that's took me close to 6 years to make that mindset change. But here's what happens. Like a pendulum, when you push the pendulum, it doesn't go from the right side to the middle. It actually swings on the other side because there's momentum for it to go on the other side. And then you need to hold it and swing it back till, after multiple oscillations, settles in the middle. It takes about 5 to 6 years to do that. That's personal experience I'm talking about. Characteristics of a typical social enterprise. First thing is, you've got to be out of your mind to leave a cushy commercial job which gives you a good career path and get into an area which is so difficult. So you need to have this ability to be a thrill seeker or have challenges in your life. Yeah, so that's a very important ingredient for you to be there. And failure or ability to deal with failure is a very, very important element because you will fail along the way. And if it really pulls you down so that you don't rebound and are resilient enough to conquer all your impediments, then this is not an industry for you. Industry-specific knowledge is a passé. In our company of 415 employees, only 1% understands water. 414 employees have no clue what water is all about. They come from telecommunication, insurance, FMCG, automotive, IT, you name it. So the fact that there is diversity in ideas is the fact that you are able to surmount impediments thrown at you. It's because there is no book or there is no ready-made solution because nobody has done it before. So to believe that a straight-jacketed approach of what companies typically do is going to help is a fallacy. You should have reasonable access to resources. Let's be very clear. For the kind of mistakes that you made, there's a cost. And if somebody is not writing a check for those mistakes, you'll be dead before you know it. So a particular team in your organization is only raising funds, whether it's debt, equity, whatever it is. Because the people on the field who are executing and who are getting the job done have to have this confidence that somebody is watching their back. Strong focus on execution. You know, the paper tigers who generally make these very great PowerPoint presentation, at some point of time get sidelined in the social organization. You have to, whatever you say, you need to have the gumption to actually go and execute and show it to the rest of the people. Otherwise, sooner or later, you will just be operating on the periphery. And last but not the least, it's always technology. Whatever you do, scalability comes with technology. So if you're not technologically oriented, not technology savvy, you will have some successes, but you want to be a global or a national or even a player of some repute, not going to happen. And finally, it's not that social enterprises don't have challenges, they do have challenges and there are impediments. And how do you surmount those impediments? I've just taken a few of them. And I have used several examples that we have used in our organization, not necessarily the rule book for success or resolving any impediment. First is the ecosystem. Social enterprise has no ecosystem to operate. I used to be in telecom industry for 10 years. Powers, IT systems, equipment, telecom equipment, handsets, for every element of the business, you have an outsourced option available. So I can set up a telecom company in 15 days just by getting a license. Social sector will take you years because none of the ecosystem exists in a social enterprise. This is the last slide. And second one, so you need to build on that. There's no shortcut to that. Acquire the right kind of talent, we run something known as smart hire. You have to get the sons of the soil, get them acquainted with what needs to be done, and still control them and give them the opportunity to grow and learn with the organization. Talent retention, we have a fairly robust career progression plan, rewards and recognition program, it's called Winspire, you know, all that jazz, because it's a tough life. If you don't recognize it at the end of the day, sooner or later you're going to let good people go. Strategic and tactical innovation, we have this brainwaves called idea generation scheme. A lot of ideas come from the grassroots level as far as that is concerned. And finally, scalability for operations. Like I said, money makes the mayor go. You need to ensure you have such a large funnel that any mistake that you make eventually gets paid for itself. Thank you.
Useful usual to start the discussions with that kind of a very broad but very, very comprehensive understanding of what does it take to be a social enterprise or a social entrepreneur. Thank you. Should we move to you, Stella? Because it'll be interesting to hear about. So Stella Look is the country director of Dimagi Software Innovations. It's a software company that aims to deliver open and innovative technology to help the underserved communities in India, Myanmar and other parts of Asia. They develop mobile job aids for facilities and community-based healthcare workers in areas such as maternal and child health, nutrition, tuberculosis, gender-based violence, and non-communicable diseases. We are interested to hear about the ComCare mobile platform and other interesting things that you do. Thank you, Stella.
Thank you, and thanks to the organizers as well for the opportunity to speak here as well. I don't have a presentation, but I just thought I would share some comments. First explaining what Dimagi is, what we do, and then tying that into the theme of social entrepreneurship and sustainability, and what are the challenges that we, in our particular context, face, and how we are looking to, to engage in the social entrepreneurship space. So to give an overview, Dimagi is a social enterprise, and we work in the area of mobile applications for frontline workers, particularly community health workers. For example, the ASHAs, the Anganwadi workers, SHG group leaders, agricultural extension workers, and school management committees. These are some of the frontline workers with which we work in India. And we equip these folks with mobile applications that allow them to provide services in the communities in which they work. And so when we think about what impact is for us, we see these people who are many times volunteers in their communities and really change agents, looking to bring good health practices, looking to raise awareness, looking to serve beneficiaries in these communities. And we think about how we can empower them using mobile applications, using technology, because as Vikas mentioned and as others have mentioned, it's a very technologically enabled and becoming increasingly technologically enabled society. So that's something that we want to leverage the fact of that and to really create an impact with. So Dimagi has worked in about 17 states in India, and we've also worked, our technology is used in about 50 countries around the world, with India being one of our key countries, and where I focus my time and such, because the opportunities here are so incredible. One of the things that I think, and this ties into the social entrepreneur aspect, which I'll explain in a bit, is that instead of creating specific pieces of custom software for a particular project, all of our software that we build is built on top of this ComCare platform, which is kind of like you can think of it like a website that an NGO can go to, log in, create an account, and start building their own mobile applications, even without engaging Dimagi. It's software as a service. If you think of SurveyMonkey or Dropbox or Salesforce, it's kind of like that. And so for us, this has created interesting opportunities in terms of our business model, and I'll get to that in a second. So when we talk about social entrepreneurship specifically, what is really interesting and exciting about this space is that it is one of the hardest spaces to work in, which is what Vikas mentioned also. I think for us, the real point here is not profits. The real point is still impact, the same as an NGO, but we take financial sustainability extremely seriously. We take it so seriously that we're not wanting to engage in kind of this. I mean, there's a lot of good work that goes on in the nonprofit sector, but we want financial sustainability to be built into the core of the work that we do, and not to be dependent on like that next grant that comes, or these 2-year programs, these 5-year programs. And it is tricky because the population that we're looking to serve, whether it's NGOs or ultimately beyond that, the beneficiaries, is not one that has a ton of money to give. And so that's why the discourse is often about engaging with governments and others. For us, with our ComCare platform, what's interesting is that organizations, whether they are in the social sector or outside the social sector, can use our technology, and as they use our technology, pay some kind of subscription fee to us, which creates this form of recurring revenue that is not based on the aid system, that's not based on the latest grant from USAID or from another funder. The vision is that it's a recurring revenue that comes from this broad user base across many different organizations of many different kinds. And that revenue comes to us and enables us to do more of the work, our core work that we are looking to do, which is working in community health, which is working in the social sector to enable organizations to use mobile apps effectively for frontline workers. it would be a lie to say that we have it all figured out in terms of how all of this works. However, what the mandate of being a social enterprise requires is that we be innovative and we think about kind of how we engage, because the aid sector has been around for the last 50 years or longer, and there's a whole machinery to it. There's a whole process of applying for grants and all of these things, and it's very much a system that hasn't figured out the sustainability aspect. And so, in order to bring change to the social sector, our belief is that through social entrepreneurship, that's something that we can do. And it's certainly exciting times in terms of the work that we have. We're working, as I said, in 17 states and on a number of national scale health projects, including some of the largest that have ever been done anywhere in India itself. So that's a little bit of our story. I could talk for a long time about all of this, but I did want to leave some time as well for the discussion, because we do have an interesting set of panelists there as well.
Thank you. Now move to our third panelist. Gaurav, could I request you to speak next, please? Gaurav Bhandari is the Global Partnerships Manager, Asia, at Greenlight Planet. He actually comes from the same sector that I work in. He leads new business development efforts for the Asian markets, and he's responsible for building alternate channels of distribution in Asia and has set up multiple high-impact partnerships with various organizations.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's the last lap of the conference, and we are here to speak on the impact which gets created by a social enterprise. For me, I mean, Vikas and Stella have really spelled out what a social enterprise is. I actually not go into the definition, but I'll probably say it this way, that social enterprise is something which your family and friends can understand. They can understand what is the impact it creates, how it enhances the livelihood of people around you or in the society. However, if you talk to your parents or your family, your wife or your child, that there's a commercial enterprise, which Vikas mentioned, or an NGO, what kind of impact they are creating, it takes time to understand. So I represent Greenlight Planet. I'm a Greenlighter, and we are doing our bit to contribute towards creating a social impact. So basically, Greenlight Planet is a US social enterprise which is basically is in the social business of manufacturing and distributing solar lanterns and solar home systems in about 45 countries as of now. We have sold about 5 million lanterns and home systems globally in last 10 years of existence. As you can see, the vision of our company, is to become a global leader in delivering honest, affordable energy to the world's 2 billion under-electrified or unelectrified off-grid consumers. In terms of our presence, this is something I just spoke about. You can see the yellow color. Moving forward, our company has been known for its quality products, which are World Bank certified, which are universally accepted product standards, product quality standards. And we have been doing well. We basically manufacture solar lanterns ranging from a price point of rupees 499 to as high as 6,999. So this particular slide talks about portable solar lanterns, and namely Pico Pro All Night Pro 2. I'll not go into the details of the product. Moving on to the next slide, we have home systems where the price point varies between 4,999 to 6,999. These are the MRPs, or the retail price. So this is what we as a company are. One of the interesting points I think Vikas mentioned during the discussion, the kind of skill sets your organization brings on table. We are also one organization which is a group of social entrepreneurs who were, some of them were failed entrepreneurs in the past, some of them were successful entrepreneurs, some of them came from a very structured environment like General Electric, telecom companies. I was personally working for a law firm before this, and I came from a cushy job, kind of an atmosphere, to a more grounded job where I faced realities every day. like me, so we all come together, and we have people like from eBay, and so it's a good mix of, this social enterprise is a good mix of people with varied skill sets. In terms of social impact, so the impact which a company like us is creating, we are able to contribute to the environment in the form of, for example, the number of hours a women who is not able to work during the night can actually take out 3 hours, which lights like us or which companies like us. So we have Simpa networks over here, so they are also doing phenomenal work in this space, creating social impact. Then we are able to create impact by increasing the number of study hours which a child can spend during the night. So we are able to do that in about 45 countries where we are present. And yeah, so this is about what kind of impact we are creating. And in fact, just to give you quick numbers, it took us about 55 months to sell or to distribute our 1 million lanterns, and it has taken us less than 6 months to sell our last million, which is the 5th million lantern. So the pace at which we have been growing is a function of the social impact which we are able to create. We are able to create social impact not in isolation. Our company has been creating social impact by partnering with organizations which already have a last mile rural distribution network. So what we do is we basically look for companies which are either microfinance institutions, NGOs, FMCG companies, any organization, whether government, non-government, in any country they operate, they need to have last mile distribution network. We partner with them and we provide all other support, both product as well as service, and make sure that jointly we create the social impact. So we are also thankful to our partners who are able to help us create that social impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaurav. And since we were speaking of solar lights and the kind of impact light creates, next in line is Sanjay Bharti. Sanjay is the Vice President of Sales at Solar Pay-As-You-Go startup Simpa Network. Simpa Networks is actually it's one of the organizations that are pioneer in, and I work in the space so I can speak for you, they have actually pioneers in addressing the whole affordability issue when it comes to solar lighting for the last mile community. So Sanjay also brings with him a lot of experience from the financial products that he's worked on, rural health insurance, agri-business loans, micro loans, and government-sponsored health insurance programs. So we'll start with him speaking for Simpa, but at some point in time, we'd also want you to take off the Simpa hat and speak as somebody with all this experience. Sanjay.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Again, when I heard Gaurav and Vikas talking, so I also felt like, yes, I am also a thrill seeker coming from all the corporate jobs and working with a social enterprise. I tell you 2 stories that will tell you what was the difference between the way social enterprise thought and the earlier organizations were thinking. The first thing, like going from rural financial services and insurance. Max Bupa was a startup, they got themselves launched, thinking that we are going to have a great name in the rural space, and we thought that the thing that can make difference is that we have to be different in terms of product, in terms of the features of the product. We made one of the best. We chose one of the best market. Insurance best market is the people who can pay the premium. So our best market was Punjab, Haryana, Western UP. We thought that with all kind of product and expert advice, we have nailed. And the product that we have, which is very much differentiated from all the product which existing companies have, we are going to have our day. Yes, we really had it, we were not selling. At the end of 6 months, 9 months, when we commissioned a great agency to tell us why this health insurance industry was demanding a great product. This health insurance industry is full of imperfections as far as product features are concerned. We gave them all. We just asked them slightly more premium than they are paying. Our research was showing, yes, why not? It's value for money. If there are more features, they should be paying. What we learned after 9 months, we were selling, but we were selling only to those people who had experienced health insurance before. Only they were knowing what are the benefits that they are knowing. So what it goes to tell us is that most of the time when we are piloting, we make a wrong judgment about product market fit. And major emphasis is the great product and success is going to follow. Again, at Simpa Network, all of us will agree that there are majorly 3-4 barriers of the market. The major barrier is upfront cost of adopting. And Simpa has the way. Simpa has the way because Simpa is working on pay-as-you-go model, where you can take a 20,000 system by just paying 1,000, 1,500 or 2,000 rupees. So the first barrier of adoption is, I don't have enough money to pay, so how do I buy? So we have a solution. But again, we thought that this solution, this technology is going to give us, I don't remember the Gaurav number, 400 million Indian market. There are so many million people living without light. We thought we have nailed. But the moment we entered to the market, we know we have not done enough. The market, when the market started responding, this was only one problem. The market was nuanced. There was segment within segment. The requirements were different. The usage pattern of various customers were different. So we were appealing to only a small section of people who thought that, yes, I definitely need to enhance my lifestyle by having solar in my house. So the bigger point over here is, when a social enterprise, there's a lot of thrill, and all the social enterprise at the back of the presentation have a big market demand as a backup, saying that yes, there is a problem, this demand we have to meet, there's a lot many customers. All the pilot that we do, and we take a lot of liberty while doing those pilots. Cost does not matter, because the moment the scale will come, cost will go down. We do the things which cannot scale up, and we enjoy doing that, thinking that we have to grab the market. Even if the things are not scalable, let us do all those things. But the real tests start coming when you really have to scale. And the great wall of execution start saying on yourself that no, whatever you have done in the pilot may or may not be true. We go into the market on the assumption that we derive from the small pilot. The moment we go to the bigger market, we start realizing our assumptions were not as good as it should have been. The many of the market, rural market imperfection or social market imperfection start telling on to you. For example, you say that yes, if I have nailed in the pilot, I can easily have 100 people to take it to 1,000 or 1 lakh customer. But to your surprise, you take 6 months to get those 100 people mastering the art of selling your product and going to the market. Your assumptions started failing. We went with a strategic desire of, we go there with a strategic desire that yes, within this span of time, I will have this much customer. But even the first bottleneck, first impediment, that can we have right kind of people to exclude those things, we start having challenges. Our cost assumptions start going wrong. The dialogue of organization starts changing. Operational optimization, cost optimization becomes a norm of the day, because whatever we thought, whatever time of spend that we dedicated for this pilot, for the scale of execution, all starts failing. So the two things that I want all of you to live with, that most of the time we are going wrong to identify product market fit and not recognizing the great wall of execution between our ambition and customer. Thank you.
It's actually very well said. The last line that you just said is something that's at the bottom of my understanding of the social problems as well. That we often give solutions that we think are right from a very specialized kind of a very narrow kind of an understanding of the problem at times, and not having experienced it in the first place. So thank you, Sanjay. This was interesting and very diverse. Now I've deliberately kept you in the end, Harpreet. That's because Harpreet, so all the speakers that you heard are part of social enterprises. Harpreet doesn't, I think she works for a not-for-profit company called Dasra, but Harpreet engages with social enterprises on an everyday basis, mentors them and builds capacity. Ms. Harpreet Bagga manages the capacity building vertical at Dasra. She supports social enterprises in scaling up for greater impact through mentoring the leadership team, as well as providing strategy, financial planning, and operational support. So it will be interesting to hear from you after we've heard from all these social enterprises.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as Sanjay just said, I'm the oddball here from a slightly different background. And the organization I work for, Dasra, we like to position ourselves or call ourselves a catalyst for social change to enable impact at scale. And for us, impact at scale is critical. So I think just as Sanjay was alluding to, that we have 800 million people to take out of poverty. Any solution that needs to happen has to happen at scale. Now, how we try, and so therefore we take a very much a sector view on how we can build the sector to take it forward to enable this. And for that, we believe there are 4 things that need to be done and understood when we work with all the various different stakeholders in the sector. One is that researching development issues. What is the challenge? What is the problem? What are potential solutions that already exist out there? On the back of that research, the second thing we do is identify social organizations that are working in that space, which is also a challenge whenever anyone wants to find a solution. Who has them, right? And what are the high impact and scalable interventions that support it? The third piece we do is after you've identified organizations, working very closely with them to help build them to scale, help build their capacity to scale up. And this is really important because for any organization to grow, multifold and scale up in the ways that my colleagues spoke about, the organization needs that capacity in form of leadership development and investment into processes and systems, that all come with experience and often, and just the honest intent and drive and passion to create change is not often enough to provide that solution. And then the final piece, the fourth that we do for the sector, is really bringing together various stakeholders. When I say that, is for funders, whether it's philanthropists, foundations, or corporates, in funding the sector to support these interventions, but also bringing together stakeholders, whether social organizations, in working closer together, learning from each other, and together creating the scalable solutions. And so for us, all of these 4 things combined, the knowledge, the capacity, and the collaboration and funding really brings together and enable us to move the sector forward. And each of these are gaps in the market. Now, the work that we do, when I say social organization, I refer to the range of organizations that Vikas alluded to as the NGOs and the social enterprises. To me, they are both forms of social organizations. And together, I think we need the combination of them really to solve the problems. Where I see the difference between what I would call the NGO and the social enterprise, profitability and the motives are definitely one. But I think the underlying difference of what model will work for a particular problem is whether a market already exists for the product or the problem you're trying to solve. Who's going to make that upfront investment in building that market? And that, to me, then drives the kind of funding that the organization is able to use. Now, whether that is funding from consumers through profits or it's grant funding to enable us to achieve those objectives. Simple example where demand may now exist, and we've seen an evolution even in the social enterprise world, where now demand may exist for solar lamps, and so it's now figuring out how to cater to that demand in the right way. When I talk about issues like adolescent girl empowerment, does someone understand what that means? Does someone know they need it? Does someone have the affordability to pay for something that they don't understand? And therefore, that's something that may lend itself much closer to grant funding. Not to say that you may not work out hybrid models where you have both a revenue element and a grant element. So I don't think either is the solution. I think the combination of them is. And so I think, but to me, the common challenges are what Sanjay just spoke about, is in enabling these organizations to scale. And that's why we have a lot of emphasis, and me personally also, in building capacity of leadership teams. Also, although Dasra has chosen to focus more on the non-profit space, we do work very closely with social businesses. In fact, both Dimagi and Simpa networks have been through some of the executive education programs that we run for leadership teams. And we continue to support organizations of a long period of time. We don't believe that that capacity can come one-off. Any social organization I work with is typically at least for a mandate of 3 years, so that we are together vested in that group. So I'm just going to leave it at that as sort of a starting point for conversation as we take it forward. Thank you.
That was great, Harpreet, and well in time. Thank you. So we'll now start some questions here. I'm actually a very curious member of the audience than a moderator, because I've always been fascinated. I work closely with some of the enterprises. I really think social enterprises are the way to go, because you're being very candid about, and organizations need to also earn money to sustain itself and grow. But you're also being, you're also not thinking just about yourself or your bottom line. You're also thinking about what is it, and not in a CSR way where you're part of what you're earning, but in a bigger way where you're actually wanting to create a win-win kind of a situation. So, so looking at social enterprises, one thing that really intrigues me, and that's my question to the four of you, except Harpreet, how do you actually convince yourself that you're doing good work? In the sense, because you have indicators on your financial side, you have indicators on your impact side, which are many, and they're diverse and they're very different. In terms of more clearly on impact measurement, when do you know what really tells you, if you to pick up key things, what tells you that you're doing good work?
It's a good question, and so definitely, I think there's aspects of how we work that are not so different. So one of them, I guess, one of the fundamental questions we asked ourselves early on is, if you equip an Asha with a mobile app, does that actually improve frontline service delivery? Definitely, there's funding for it, and there's an interest in it because it's new. But if it doesn't improve health outcomes, then we're not interested to do it. So I think over the course of not last year, but the last 2 years before that, there was a major RCT that was done in Bihar, probably the most rigorous health evaluation that's ever been done anywhere in the world, to our knowledge, an extremely rigorous randomized people trial. And the results were good, described as kind of gold standard in illustrating that, yes, use of this technology, controlling for other variations, can improve, the number of times that our beneficiaries do their antenatal clinic visits, can improve the use of family planning methods, et cetera, et cetera. That said, so that's the the standard starting answer, and it's definitely true. These things need to happen. I don't think the question ever stops getting asked, because impact, even when we sit around at our retreats and our summits talking about impact, we all define it in different ways, and we're still arguing about it, today even. I think so. I think it's important that we keep on asking ourselves those questions. Now we're not looking to run a big RCT that's controlled and rigorous, because we've already done that. Now we're trying to understand how do we measure impact collectively across all of our projects. How many lives does each one of our staff kind of impact? If our tools are doing what we think that they will. How many people who are using our tools after we train them are still using them in 3 years. So I think we're constantly in the process of redefining what we mean by that, and whether this is the most impactful thing versus something else, I don't think is really the question anyways that we're trying to answer. We just want to make sure that we're on the right track, and by asking the question, we do that.
In our case, whether we are doing the right thing or not is measured actually at 3 levels. At the very strategic or 40,000 feet level, you measure how many people are consuming the service. So we have this mission of serving 100 million people by 2020. So today we are at about 8 million, so we still have to do 92 million. The fact that you're growing exponentially, I think at a very macro level is giving you the indication that you're on the right track. The second level, of course, is going to the consumer and asking them, are you happy, which is this customer satisfaction survey, but it's still subjective. That's the second level at which you measure your success. And the third and the final measure is more empirical, where you go and actually see the actual benefit between a control and a treatment village, which is the typical way in which you make major impact. We do it every 6 months. So there we have 3 parameters. We have environmental parameters. Are you a zero liquid discharge company? Are you giving back to environment more than you're sucking out? We have the health metrics. People who consume our water are 9 times less likely to fall prey to waterborne disease. That's a hard metric. And then you also have a social metric. How many people are getting employed directly, indirectly? What is that multiple and how is it growing? So all the 3 get measured. The first one tells you that you are on the right direction. You just it's more of a macro indicator. The second one tells you a good feeling, and third one is empirical.
Before Sanjay and Gaurav respond to this, I also want you to touch upon the whole point of after sales here, because for you, your simple sales will not always indicate impact in the most linear way. There's also this whole question of adoption, whether it's working, whether it's not, how is it actually making a difference. So if you could also speak on that.
Yeah, it's a very valid. In our case, and it is true for any organization, the impact organization, like number of customers that are there who are availing your product. We keep getting satisfaction with the velocity, monthly velocity with which we are acquiring customer, and if it is going up month by month, then we feel that yes, if customers are taking my product, then there is a product market fit. It proves that our distributors are finding it easy to sell, that's why it is selling. So monthly velocity in combination with the number of customers as on date is one satisfaction that we get. And when we are selling on some of the commitments, some of the premise to the customer, selling that we say that all the technical risk which you were not able to take otherwise, Simpa is taking all those customers. Simpa is taking all those technical risks. It means that if your product does not perform, you do not pay. It means that when Simpa product is there at your house, it will work all the time. So the other important thing that become important for us is our service ticket tag. We are saying that whether we are able to service, what percentage of service we are able to solve within 1 day, 2 days or 7 days. So if the percentage keeps increasing for the less number of days, we think that yes, we are meeting our commitment to the customer, and it keep convincing us, yes, if it is happening, the likelihood of customer paying us will increase. At Simpa, when we are giving a 20,000 system by taking a down payment of 1,000 or 2,000 rupees, a lot of our money comes within a period of 2 years and 3 years. So we keep saying that what is the money that was expected to come to me as on date, and what portion of that money has come. We call it collection efficiency within ourselves. Suppose 100 rupees was supposed to come on this month from n number of customers, what percentage of it has come to us? And if it is coming, then we are knowing that our value proposition is working. And we add a small qualifier to this, like we have a due date for every customer. So we keep saying that how many of our customers paid around due date. So if they are paying around due date, so that their chances of defaulting, the very proposition that if you do not pay, the light will stop working. This proposition seems to be working when they are paying around that day. And what we are saying that our 60 to 70% of our customers are paying around due date. It means our proposition is working. And people are feeling for light, people are ready to do anything for light, that's why they are paying around due date. So these are 3-4 macro and micro measures that we keep looking at to understand that whether we are going right, how much we are going right.
So the way we measure social impact in our case, I'll give you an example. As I said in my 3-4 minutes of initial introduction, we essentially don't work in isolation. We work with very strategic partners who have a last mile rural focus. So we are able to, so we measure social impact in the form of how many homes we have lit up. That is one parameter for us to keep a track of. Second, how many beneficiaries of actual consumers who got benefited from these lights have actually bought these lights. And we also keep a track on their usability. Third, so this is at a customer level, which we keep a track on. Second, we keep a track on our partners, how frequently they are facilitating us in reaching out to the actual beneficiaries when it comes to such products, such solar lights and solar home systems. So that is second. Third, we also monitor other key parameters like, as I showed on the slide, the study time of a child, the working hours of a tailor who's an entrepreneur. Because we are also creating with our efforts social entrepreneurs. So here's an example of a social enterprise creating social entrepreneurs. So that's the third point. Fourth point is that, so these are some external points through which we measure social impact. And the fourth point, again on the external side, is how do we ensure good after-sales service. Initially, about 2 years back, we used to have 1 year replacement warranty on all our products. We figured out that there are other product companies offering more warranty. At the same time, more than that, the consumer wants 2 years warranty. So based on consumer demand, we changed our warranty from 1 year to 2 years warranty. And we have made it standard across all our geographies, across all our SKUs. Plus, so within the 2 years replacement warranty, if a particular product has a manufacturing defect, we replace it. Of course, we have done our calculations and mathematics so as to remain sustainable. Post 2 years warranty, if there's any problem with respect to our products, we have service centers. Plus, we also have a train-the-trainer program, because we know every time we cannot send a service engineer to Sundarbans or to Majoli Island, which is the biggest river island in Brahmaputra River, to repair the light. So we have train-the-trainer program or train-the-technician program, where we are able to empower that social enterprise or that partner and their employees with basic technical skills so that they can handle after-sales issues. That's the fourth point. So these are 4 external points. So we are taking a customized approach to after-sales service. A couple of internal points. When I say internal to the organization. Point number 1, we are very choosy, picky, strategic about the people we hire within the organization. We definitely don't go by which sector they're coming from, but there are 3-4 qualities which we look for. 1, the passion to create social impact. 2, are they ready to, the person who's coming in the organization, is he or she ready to trade off between what salary she was getting earlier, what salary she's going to get now, he's going to get now. So that gives a sense of that we are hiring the right person. Third, we hire people who are very enterprising, hustlers in their own lives, personal, professional, and at the same time enterprising. So this is the way we feel that internally within the organization, we also have to create that importance of social impact. And if we are able to do that internally, which we have been able to do that successfully now, we'll be able to create social impact outside and measure it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was speaking to Stella before the session, and she was talking about how they engage with NGOs at the grassroots, and Harpreet, you work a lot with NGOs. I've heard a lot of social enterprises say that the NGOs are the anchoring bodies for the kind of work that they do at the grassroots. But at the same time, I've also seen a lot of social enterprises struggle with the grassroots civil society organizations simply because you have 2 different work cultures. You're working still with a business approach, though for the same cause, and NGOs are working more with a not-for-profit kind of an orientation. And there is still, we still have a long way to go in understanding social businesses as separate from either NGOs or businesses on both the hands. What in your experience, each one of you, whoever's willing to answer, has been the case? Has there been more of a struggle to align with the way an NGO approaches a problem, or has there been an easier facilitation?
Yeah, so I think in terms of Dimagi's work, we work with a lot of different organizations, big and small, as we were discussing. I think the challenges with small grassroots organizations are different. There's definitely some that are very motivated, and particularly if there's like for us, the challenge that we face is finding the right partners of any size who really have a good sense of what they want to get out of mobile technology and how that's going to integrate into their systems to achieve the objectives that they're looking to achieve. And so in the context of like a small grassroots NGO, if there's a champion who's willing to drive it, who's engaged for a long time in that organization, in that context, that's often been pretty successful. I think from the sort of area that we're coming from, the challenge that we sometimes see is that because there's so much buzz, even now, even now when everyone's heard about health, there's still so much buzz. There could be organizations that are so grassroots and wanting to do wanting to build their own app, wanting to start deploying these things. And it's part of the discussion when we sort of engage in these partnerships is understanding, okay, do you know what all it takes? Let's have a conversation about what it's going to take to achieve everything that you want. You can have the software, but if you don't have somebody who's able to troubleshoot it, for example, if you don't have somebody who's willing to make sure people are using the software, then you might as well not have the software. And if there's things even before the software that need to be figured out, like staffing issues, for example, or basic training, then maybe it's not the time to get into mobile technology right now. Because a lot of the work that happens at the very last mile isn't about these technology things, as much as we want to bring technology there. And so, picking the right partners and helping partners understand if they're ready for this or if this is the right thing for them is definitely a process.
I've dealt with a lot of NGOs in our business. There are a couple of problems. The first problem is that I don't understand the jargon that they use. It's very jargonized, and the communication is a big issue. It's a circuitous thing. After 45 words, you're trying to figure out what are the 2 or 3 words which is trying to be communicated, and that's very frustrating. So that is one part of the story. The second part of the story is many NGOs fall in love with what they do, and they romanticize this entire idea that something has happened, and they narrate those stories, which is good. I'm not taking it away. I think it's a good thing to talk about stories and wins. But the stories are only good as they get in isolation. If you really want to make an impact, you need to look at a much wider canvas and many more things which just go beyond that romanticism with the story about a particular village, which by all means is a good story. And the third and the very important aspect is there is some degree of, not true in many NGOs, but there's some degree of being in a position where you need to play second fiddle or please your donors. Or the people who fund the NGOs. It's important that you need money, I don't deny that, but I think at some point of time you need to hold your own on what is required and what is important. And I'm sure a person who's signing the check would appreciate if you demonstrate conviction with what you believe can be done and what cannot be done. These are 3 things I have faced. I have also dealt with BRAC, which is the largest NGO in the world. They have a different problem. They believe they own the world because it's a second government in Bangladesh, right? With them, you can't sign anything. It goes through 11 lawyers and the contracts, and more importantly, they want everybody to be a second fiddle to BRAC, because we are BRAC and you are a puny organization who's dealing with them. So there are 2 extreme ends. Very few NGOs on the larger side, very many NGOs on the smaller side. So the set of problems exist in both areas. But once you get over that hump and you can culturally relate to an NGO, they can be a great partner.
Just like to make a thank you, that one. So I agree there are a range of NGOs of all sizes, right, from small to large. I think the key is identifying the right organizations to work with, that work with you and where their philosophy matches with you. I wouldn't, in my experience of working with multiple NGOs and social organizations, yes, there's an element of being donor-driven because that's where your funds are coming from. But I would say that almost every social leader I've met, they are driven by the passion with which they started things. They may do add-ons, which they still believe add on to the work that they're doing, and because they're getting funding with it. But I don't think they would derail their objective in the name of getting funding for something. So I think they will be driven by that. I think often the leader, it depends on the background of the leader and where they came from, where they started from, if they're able to talk the business language or not. And this is not a problem that they would have dealing with just with the social business. It's equally a problem they have with dealing with donors. Working with corporate CSR is a whole new ballgame for NGOs to deal. So I agree, capacity needs to be built with those organizations. But what we have to realize is why we go to them is because of that last mile connectivity and that community connect that they have, that very few other organizations would have the ability to have that. So I think, so no, I'm not disputing your point, I'm just, giving that there's a range there. I think that's why we also believe that the diligence that goes in choosing the right organization to work with and supporting them with the capacity they need. So even with something like Dimagi, we encourage them, and as does Dimagi, on who's the right person for this, or find that person and then move on this subject.
Yeah.
I have a couple of points here. So, in fact, I met some potential partner in the morning in Delhi, and it's an NGO with which has got about somewhere around, I think 2,000 SHG groups. So one of the social impact metric which I got to know from him, he said if we partner with you, there are chances we can increase the number of SHG groups. So in a way we are impacting their business. That's point number one. Another point which I want to make is that an organization like BRAC Bangladesh, for example, as Vikas rightly pointed out, it's a hybrid organization. They have a seed and agri enterprise, they have microfinance arm, they're into urban planning, they are into semi-rural. So I think when you have to tackle for a social enterprise, when you need to tackle a mammoth organization such as BRAC, it's important for you to understand, do the research about that partner organization like BRAC, and figure out which strategic business unit or which arm of that BRAC band you need to partner with. Of course, you cannot partner with entire BRAC. BRAC has got a mobile app as well called Vikas, which is into mobile technology, mobile payments. So you need to figure out whom should you really reach out after doing your own due diligence, because you can really expect a lot of questions from these organizations while you are a social enterprise.
I'll just have one more question and then I'll open it to you all, and that comes from what you said, Vikas. It's a slightly provocative question, but exactly, turning around what Vikas just said, do you think, and we as candidates we can be, that social enterprises in general and not just your enterprise in particular, has this risk of of being so passionate and so excited about what they're doing and the early success that they sometimes achieve, that they can cross over to the other side and start obsessing about it in a little sort of a restricting a manner? Can it ever, does it cross your mind that we need to be very grounded, we need to still be open up, because sometimes it's the excitement that you have towards a solution, the passion that you have could go on to the other side and blind you from maybe some other possible solution.
Yes, that's a real threat. I'll give you an example. We operate in 7 countries, 6 of which are in Africa, including Bangladesh, 2 in Asia, 5 in Africa. All the African countries are controlled from India, so we have Indian heads of business, if you will, sitting in India. And whatever we have learned in India, whatever we understand about India, we automatically try to implement in Africa. Now that's a different culture. In Nigeria, there are 87 tribes, and there are 3 key tribes which drive the entire understanding, and it's a very clannish society, so you have to understand that. Polygamy is legal. So these are nuances which you don't understand about the family structure. So when you try to implement some of the state-jacketed solutions in India in a different country, and you are inclined to do that because the ecosystem supports that, then sometimes what happens is, in that process, you try to not listen to what is being told to you. And sometimes it takes me visiting those countries and looking at the obvious things and telling these guys, are you guys smoking dope? Did you see that it's not going to work? But that is a real challenge, and I don't blame the organization for that, because organization has the compulsion to double every quarter. If they start trying to understand the nuances of what the marketing is telling you, then that will slow them down significantly. So you have to find the right balance between listening to the customers and growing at a feverish pace. And sometimes you err on the side of listening too much to the customers and not growing, and sometimes you err on the side of growing too fast, not listening to the customers. It's an art. I don't have a good answer for that, but it's an art on how do you draw the balance between these 2 conflicting objectives.
That's well said. Does anyone want to add?
I think just taking forward Vikas' point, one of the things social enterprise, when they are co-founder led and co-founder led by a few of the managers that they hire, they think that yes, they are solving a great problem, in which they are. But the biggest problem that they face is when it has to scale up and the pendulum from commercial side comes. If you have to scale, the example that are available with us, you can scale commercially by copying few of the best sales organizations that we have around. And those sales organizations, the moment you start tracking them, you understand the various reasons because of which they succeeded. That there also was some passion, but passion with a willingness to get evaluated every month, every 6 months, every quarter. So, but the social enterprise, which is supposed to be hybrid, that start confusing at that point of time. Yes, you want to grow, and growth says that this growth will require a hell lot of discipline. So one set of, then the two organizations starts popping up within the organization. One who carries value system, impact, we are not doing good enough by going so fast, injustice to customer, but other schools start saying that, no, this is the way which has been taught to us, this is the way to acquire desired velocity, this is the way to acquire large number of customer, right performance measures, right evaluation. So that particular phase, and we know that many of the social enterprises pass to that phase and settle at the right hybrid level, what is that mix of commercial versus social and how we need to grow. But this phase in the interim, that creates the biggest confusion when you are trying to convert your social organization, I should not say commercial organization, but say hardcore performance-oriented organization, which requires some different kind of skill. So that dilemma is one thing that all of us will have to overcome one day or another, and we face it.
I'm very happy to have such an honest and a very introspective panel here. I have many questions. I mean, this is something that personally also excites me, this conversation, but I'll open it to you all. And if you don't have enough, then I'll come back and ask more questions. Yes?
This is a slightly business-related question. For any successful business, you need to have customer retention and stickiness of the product. But because you're a social enterprise and sometimes your products, the social impact takes a certain time to kick in, how do you retain your customers and go back with the product repeatedly to them?
The reason why customers buy a product is not because of social impact. The reason that customers buy a product is because it's solving a real problem, not a fictitious problem. For example, if water is dirty and it's causing diseases, and people are falling sick and they're spending a lot of money on medicines and healthcare, and they're missing work days, and also children are missing school, that's a problem. Your presence in that particular locality or catchment area is meant to address that problem. And the social impact is a byproduct, but the actual focus is on solving a real problem. If you're not solving a real problem, you might as well shut your shop. So that's a fundamental premise that you go with. So people buy because there is value in what you do and you're solving a problem, not because of social impact. Social impact is a byproduct.
I think what you also want to understand was the cycle of impact, as in whenever, fortunately the organizations that we have here, they all have products which have an immediate personal impact, and therefore there's no gestation period in the time when, unless the social impact is tangible and felt. But in case of, if you want to talk about any enterprise or any organization that you work with where the impact comes a little later, how do you keep yourself afloat?
So I think particularly in many of the areas that I work in, impact is actually often intergenerational, and so we define it a step earlier to outcomes, if I were to use the impact assessment terminology. And even then, outcomes are often take a few years to achieve. So even if I give examples of organizations we work with, like for example Sneha, where Dimagi's actually helped them pretty significantly in putting technology to help the local Anganwadi care workers in the urban slums to work towards reducing malnutrition. Now, malnutrition is something that does not get solved in days, and often not in months either. So it's important for the organization that's working on that topic to know why they're doing it, define the program for whatever period it takes to get there, and then set milestones at what you can achieve in between. Which is why in our impact assessment terminology, we typically say there are certain inputs you need, activities you need, outputs which I can measure in the shorter term, and I should measure against those metrics. For example, how many visits did the Anganwadi worker make to, home visits did he make to the mother? What did they check in that visit? And that's where technology then helps them. And then you're saying that, okay, 6 months later or a year later, has the nutrition status changed, for which I can use a study to do that. This is a common problem that happens, particularly in grant funding, to be able to justify that the money that you're giving is going to take time to show results. And that's a dual process of education between the organization and the funder. And I think typically my sense is that you will find that happening more in the non-profit piece, because as Vikas has mentioned, when we talk social enterprise, the market exists. Typically the demand is there, so the person wants it, and it's so because it is solving a problem, whether today or 2 months down the line, but it's very tangible. And that's the point that I was making, that when there isn't a market and that output is not very tangible, then I'm not sure if the social enterprise model itself could work, or then there has to be innovation around the operating model.
And patience.
And yes.
Yeah, I'd like to just add to your question about how to remain engaged with the consumers. So one of the things which a company like us, from an industry practitioner, as an industry practitioner, I'll just probably give some inputs, that some of the companies like us have consumer insights team, which keep a track of, so once the sale has happened, they keep a track of the usability of the product. They remain engaged with the consumer. They try and figure out how the products are being used. That's one. Second is that a consumer, for example, starts with a small solar lantern costing 499 rupees, and he feels that the price is okay. Then as a company, to further benefit the consumer, and obviously to earn that moderate profit to remain sustainable, we will offer him another product which is costing 1899. And so one is product innovation, and second is graduating the consumer to a higher value product. So from a one solar lantern, he moves to a solar lantern which has got a USB port to add on that additional functionality of charging mobile phones, to moving on to 3 lights in a home system where he can lit up his entire home. So it's a multi-pronged approach which such consumer insights team keep an eye on and remain engaged with the last mile beneficiary or consumer.
Can I take 1 minute? As Smita was saying, even we are a product company which can create impact the day you install it, but then also the customer stickiness problem are taken very seriously. Our risks are, if the moment the grid light starts, which is erratic at this point of time, becomes regular, we have a risk of we getting obsolete from that market. So now here lies the real thing. One thing is called customer engagement, which has to be continuously, but for how long? You cannot keep engaging customer for 20 years or 4 years, 5 years. It's a very diligent job to do customer engagement. So one thing, and we are selling ourselves as a replacement to kerosene. But the truth of the life is, Gaurav will also agree that wherever we are there, kerosene is not going out of that house, because there is a political commerce or political economics of kerosene because of which it is not going out. So our competitor is existing in the house despite we are there. So here lies the trick when we say product market fit. If our product is not comprehensive, any day customer who has been in the habit of living in dark or even living in kerosene light for the past 60 years, he can shift. And he will not mind shifting because he has done that. So here lies the importance of when you are trying to solve him for himself, solve comprehensively, so that he starts forgetting the biggest competitor, which is kerosene. That requires thinking, but that thinking does not come easily, because everything that you do, it comes with a cost. So to some extent, we are addressing it. We are trying to be as comprehensive as possible. We are also following the energy ladder thing, one by one, where you keep increasing the features of the product. And third thing, when we are selling, what we are trying to educate customer, we are saying that we are trying to link that with the aspiration of customer. Saying this light is not mere light because of which some light comes. It is meant for educating your children. So which is a long-term thing, so please stick to this. So at the time of selling, we try to put this thing into the mind of customer that you are not buying light, you are buying career for your children, you are buying health for your family. So that the thing that is entering into his mind, you can call it a smart selling, but this is the way it is. The thing that enters into his mind is, yes, I am buying it for the larger purpose of my life, so he wants to stick with that. If you ask that if there is a successful, partial success, we do not know yet how much you have succeeded, but when we conducted a market survey for our customers that why you bought, we heard that 80% of customers were repeating Simpa, saying that yes, I bought because I have to educate my child, which we wanted to put into their mind. So that gives a signal that yes, it is sticking to their mind, and because of which they will stick to us.
In fact, I think for any intervention in the sector, the element of behavior change and awareness that is required for anything that you're doing is so critical to ensure sustained long-term outcomes or impact, and that would apply across all the work. that all of us do.
From a financial perspective, I would like to know what would be the right profit margins what the social enterprise would be looking for. That it is not that high as a commercial organization, and it is also enough to sustain the organization, also scale. What would be the right profit margins?
See, depends on the people who have invested in the venture to a great degree. If you have investors who are looking for what is, I'll use a jargon, use very typically is triple bottom line, so you need to give them a return other than financial return in certain other facets, then the burden on the financial return reduces. But it's always a combination of the returns in a composite fashion other than financials, which determine how much they're comfortable with. But if you have to use a thumb rule, 18% IRR is something which is used by hurdle rate for many businesses. It's a different issue that India is going through a very traumatic period and nobody is making that kind of a return. But 18% IRR is a hurdle rate. So I would say anywhere between 12 to 18% IRR. That's probably the spread. As I'm just guessing right now because I don't know what kind of investors invest in what ventures, but I think 12 to 18 would be adequate, provided it's coupled with other returns.
And just to share my 2 cents, I don't think there's really a specific answer, but one answer is to not have a loss, basically, in the sense that, like I was saying, in terms of what a social enterprise is, it's a financially sustainable model. For us, when we talk about profit, we are interested in profit. We don't even call it profit. We call it buffer these days. That's the term that we're using because what's exciting to us is the idea of building up enough kind of buffer so that we're able to kind of drive our own destiny in terms of how we see the vision of this technology being useful. As it currently stands, a lot of it is client-driven, and by clients in this case I mean NGOs or funders, let's say, in terms of how they're seeing that the technology should be. But as we gain more experience, we start to develop our own ideas also of where we should be investing in terms of our technology roadmap. And so, to the extent that we want the autonomy to be able to drive the direction of our product, for that reason, then we would want more of this buffer that we talk about. But even if you look at social enterprises in India, even not losing money is success, compared to the average social enterprise in India that is actually working effectively towards a social sector.
Any other questions? Do we have a couple of more minutes, or have we already exceeded time? Okay. I just wanted to hear a quick wish from all of you, but since there's no time, if there's anyone who wants to go have a quick go at it, from the policy, financing, any impact, any perspective, what is it that you wish would change? Quickly, if anyone wants to go.
I can talk about water. In water specifically, and I think this will be true for other industries also, you have packaged water which is regulated. There's something known as IS 14543, which is the BIS certification for every bottled water that you get. On the other end of the spectrum, you have potable water provided by utilities, which is the pipe water that comes to your home. It is controlled by a certification called IS 10500. In a decentralized community water system, which is right in the middle, there is no regulation. So because there is no regulation, you have spurious players coming in and providing bad water under the guise of community water systems. So there have been a lot of petitions being supplied to, it's a mafia, it is a mafia. So to the federal government. But here's the deal, somebody has to bell this cat and it has to be done by the Act of Parliament, and you know how many bills are stuck there. So this is last on the priority. So I wish, if I have to wish, I wish, at least from our standpoint, somebody takes this case and gets it done. Because I don't think in India you'll have only piped water everywhere. You have a Mercedes and a bullock cart running on the same road. So there will be community water systems, there will be packaged water, and there will be utility water coexisting for a long time to come.
From where I stand, I wish that philanthropy becomes more strategic, and from that I mean in terms of where the funds are invested, in terms of both the interventions, in the spread of where it could be used more effectively, but also allowing each of the organizations to invest in themselves so that they are able to scale and don't hit a car crash when they do embark on that scaling journey.
I think my wish would be that social enterprises get more, create more noise, are more visible, are more written about, instead of politics taking the prime time, social enterprises' work should be highlighted, because social enterprise is not just about scale. Will not always be about scale. Even if you're doing something very small in a small district, is social enterprise. You're creating social entrepreneurs. So that should be more visible to people, and there should be more public participation, whether through crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, or through ideas.
I think my wish, and this relates to the question that was asked earlier, is that like in this sector that we're all in some way or another, that the markets are basically so imperfect. Like even the funders are looking to buy impact basically, and there isn't enough transparency into what are the impact interventions or not for various kinds of reasons, and there isn't enough kind of transparency or understanding about like what are the options, what's indexed, and these kinds of things. So even just kind of having a level of information and knowledge, I think, sort of more available, so that this kind of like market for impact could function a little bit better. I think would bring things a long way.
My wish for social enterprises, social enterprise should be enabled in a manner so that they are not forced to impose the cost of their own inefficiencies and the cost of market efficiencies on the customer. So this will be enabled to innovate, to minimize this cost, and so the least amount of that is getting imposed to the customer. Currently, many of the social enterprises are not able to go to a scale because they have made themselves costly for the customer by imposing many costs, and that cost is their inefficiency. The cost is the market inefficiency. To deal with it, they came into being. So we have to enable social enterprise to work with that.
Thank you. I'm not even going to attempt to summarize this. This was a very, very interesting discussion, and special thanks to all of you for being very refreshingly candid and open in sharing your insights. Thank you very much. Thank you.